Hello, welcome to my channel. You're watching What Helen Reads and I'm Helen, and today I'm doing the mid-year booktube tag. So I've seen other booktubers do this in the last couple of years. Obviously, I'm not sure who started it originally, but I know that people are already starting to produce this for this year as well, and I thought it'd be really fun to give this one a go. So the idea of this one is that I ask some questions and answer them for you about some of my favourite books of the year so far, biggest surprises and that sort of thing. But it also feels like a perfect time to do kind of like a mid-year check-in with you guys. So I'm still relatively new to YouTube. I'm about 18 months into my journey now. I've got another month to go before it's officially 18 months because I started in January of 2023. So like I said, I'm still really new to booktube, but I'm still absolutely loving the experience, really enjoy reading the books, recording the videos, editing the videos, getting them ready for you guys, and also for some of the friendships that I've started to build. I love seeing your comments, so thank you very much to everyone who has taken the time to watch a video, like a video, make a comment, recommend a book to me. I really appreciate it. And obviously I'm still a very small channel, but it fills me with so much joy when anyone chooses to watch a video and subscribe, so thank you very much. So just a bit of an update then, because I like to keep track of these things and it's interesting to look back. Hopefully I'll be on here for a few more years and I'll be able to look back and see what progress I was making. So at this point in time I've actually uploaded 109 videos. In fact, by the time you actually watch this one, it's probably going to be 111 videos, something around that mark. And as it sits today, I've got 758 subscribers. I've had 29,000 views in total and 3,600 watch hours over the last year. So the top 3 videos that I've ever put up there is my original dark romance recommendation video, which I did last year. That's cracking on to 9,000 views now. An age gap romance recommendation that I did, that is over 2,500 views. And then a stalker romance recommendation video, which has got nearly 1,000 views. So it's clear that people like the darker side of romance or the more taboo topics, and that tends to be where people most gravitate to my videos when I've done a dark romance or Mafia romance recommendation video. So they definitely is where I feel my niche is. Now in terms of audience, there's still the highest number of people who watch my videos live in the US, about 45%, and 2.5% are from the UK, about 2% are from India, and the rest are from other countries around the world. So by far the biggest bulk of people watching my videos is in the US. Okay, so that's enough about the stats in terms of where I am at personally, and like I said, I'm just still absolutely loving it, so thank you very much for coming along on this journey with me. I appreciate every single one of you for taking the time to watch a video, and if you have already made it this far, then please give it a like. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me. Okay, so let's kick off then into the questions. So the first question is, what is the best book that you've read so far in 2024? So of course I have got more than one answer for this question, and I'm going to pick 2. One I'm going to pick is kind of an old book, so a book that was not released this year, and in fact it's been around for a couple of years. And then I'm going to talk about a new release this year that has been my favourite so far. So starting with the older book first then, but this new to me this year, and that is The Deal by Elle Kennedy, and this was originally written in 2015. This is book 1 in the off-campus series. Very popular ice hockey romance. And I actually first listened to this book as an audiobook, and it was narrated by Christian Fox and Lorelei Avalon, and I absolutely loved it. Gave this one 5 stars, and we were following Hannah and Garrett Graham. Now this is not the first time I'm going to talk about Garrett today, but like I said, this is a very famous ice hockey romance, so it's a sports romance. It's set in college. It's also fake dating, which is perfect because not only do I love ice hockey romances, I also love fake dating. It's my absolute favourite trope. This is also what I would say friends to lovers, and a bit of sex education in here as well. Because essentially what happens in this one is that Garrett obviously is a ice hockey player. He's on the ice hockey team in college. His dad, in fact, is a famous ice hockey player. So he is under a lot of pressure to do really well. And while he's good at school, he is failing in one particular class. And he needs to get his grades up if he wants to stay on the team. Hannah, on the other hand, is sort of like an art student. She's actually studying music, and she is spending quite a lot of time preparing for kind of like a show that's going to kind of wrap up her, you know, academic year, as it were. And so she spends a lot of time, you know, practicing for that. However, the class that Garrett is failing in, Hannah is doing really, really well in. And when Garrett realises how good she is this class, he kind of begs her to tutor him and help him pass this class. The thing is, like I said, Hannah doesn't have time for this. She's, you know, her agenda is absolutely packed out. She certainly hasn't got time to waste on a, you know, a jock, basically, trying to help him with his schoolwork. But Garrett is very, very persistent, and he figures out that Hannah has got a secret crush. She is crushing on this guy, a new guy in school, but he's in the football team. But he's sort of not looking twice at Hannah. And so Garrett sort of says to her, I've noticed you've got your eye on that guy over there. Well, if you date me, then you'll be super popular, and suddenly he'll notice you and you'll stand a chance with that guy. Trust me, I know how guys think. So why don't you date me? I'll help you out with that guy, and in return, you can basically help me with my class, and while we're doing that, we'll pretend to date. Like I said, Hannah says no at first, but eventually Garrett Graham wears her down, and eventually she agrees to enter into this arrangement. And then, of course, what happens is that they spend a lot more time together. They get to know each other really well. They absolutely have great chemistry together, and also really enjoy each other's company. And so, because they're getting on so well, and you know, their fake dating is going really well, like I said, they have this great chemistry, Hannah decides she's going to ask Garrett for a little bit more help in the bedroom, because Hannah has experienced some trauma in her past, which means she struggles to achieve pleasure while she's having sex. And she basically says to Garrett, you know, I've got a bit of a predicament, because even if I get this football guy to like me and want to date me, when it comes to the bedroom, then I probably will end up disappointing him. So can you basically help me to check that I'm not broken down there, and you know, figure things out? And so Garrett is only too happy to oblige, and of course their relationship goes from there. Absolutely loved it. It was funny, it was cute, it was heartwarming, but it wasn't too sweet. There was an edge of darkness to this one, you know, some heartfelt discussions. Both Garrett and Hannah have obviously experienced quite a lot of difficult things in their past, and together they're able to come together, be great friends, but also build this great chemistry together, and I absolutely loved it. Would highly recommend. And then my favourite new release of 2024 is this one here, Hills of Shivers and Shadows by Pam Godwin. It's a very chunky book, as you can see. The print copy I've got here is 600 pages, and it is a dark romance. I've actually got a reading vlog of this one, so you can check out my deeper thoughts on this. But I feel that Pam has actually started a fantastic trilogy with this one, because this is book one in the Frozen Fates trilogy. The second book is already out. I'm going to be talking about that shortly, and book 3 is out very soon, and I can't wait to read it. So this one is basically kind of marketed as a dark why choose romance, and it starts where our main heroine Frankie is married and to a man called Monty. And she just finds out she's pregnant and tells Monty the news. They have a bit of an argument about it, because Monty doesn't want children and he has to go off to work, and they agree that they're going to discuss it further when he comes back from work. But while he's at work, Frankie is actually kidnapped by a man called Denver, who comes to their home, basically kidnaps her and makes it look like she's left her husband, and then takes her on a boat and then a plane, and eventually they end up in the very far north of Alaska, very, very far away from any other civilization, in a very, very precarious position. And Frankie finds herself in this very, very cold, forbidding place. The only person that can get them in or out of there is Denver himself, because he has a plane and is the only one that can fly it. But when she gets to the place that he has taken her to, she then meets his 3 sons, Leonid, Kodiak and Wolfson, who are also kind of trapped in this place. And she has to figure out what she's doing there, why she's been taken, who these people are, what they're going to be doing with her, and ultimately, you know, has to figure out a way to survive and then escape. It's an absolute masterpiece of a story. There are so many clues, puzzles, storylines that we need to unwrap in here. And Pam does a great job of kind of like sowing all of the seeds, a breadcrumb trail that we need to follow. There is a lot of heartache, a lot of difficult things to read in here, but absolutely gripping. I could not put it down, was on the edge of my seat, and could not wait to go on to the second book, because I will warn you, there is a pretty big cliffhanger at the end of this one, and you are going to definitely want to pick up book 2 as soon as you can. So my answer to the next question will be no surprise then, because the next question is the best sequel. So I've got 2 I want to share, and the first one I want to talk about is book 2 in the Frozen Fate trilogy, Cage of Ice and Echoes by Pam Godwin. Now, we could argue that this is a better book than book 1, but I think this trilogy as a whole will be a 5-star read. I absolutely loved Hills of Shivers and Shadows, and this is an absolutely fantastic sequel and would highly recommend. So in this one, our characters are now in a situation where they are facing a very, very harsh winter. They have very, very little food, very little fuel, and not only are they going to have to try and keep themselves warm because they're very, very close to freezing to death, but also fed, and they are seriously low on food. So this becomes a book now. We've gone from, you know, this terrible kidnapping, unravelling a terrible story about what's going on and why Frank is there and who these men are, and now it becomes a story of survival. How are these people going to work together to survive these terrible situation that they find themselves in, where they are literally trapped in the remotest part of Alaska with no way to get to civilization, and they are, you know, perilously close to death, and how they're going to, you know, work together, get closer together, and also figure out some clues. So like I say, at the end of book 1 we're left with a really big cliffhanger, we're left with more questions than we have answers, and as we go through the Cage of Ice and Echoes we get many more of our answers, but also some new questions as well. That's all I'm going to say on that one, so as not to spoil it. And I cannot wait for book 3, and I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. All I will say is, if you want to know more about this one, if you're not sure, then I have spoken about it before, and like with Hills of Shivers and Shadows, I did a deep dive into this one, so like kind of like an extended review, if you like, of this particular book, where I go into a few more spoilers as well. So if you're interested, you're scared to try it and you want to know a little bit more before you dive in, then check out that other video, and I'll have them listed in the description box below. So the other sequel that I really want to talk about is this one here, which is Surrender by Sam Mariano and Laura Lovett. This is actually book 4 in the Coastal Elite series. Now, I don't know if this is technically a cheat, because this book was originally released as Sophie's Surrender, and it was written basically before the Coastal Elite series started. However, Sam Mariano has recently reworked this book slightly. I think it's pretty much true to the original, but it's been renamed Surrender, re-released, and it has got a bonus chapter in here which features some other characters from other books in this series. Now, I only read this book at the start of this month, so I haven't reviewed this one yet. So if you want to know my full thoughts on this one, check out my June wrap-up, which will be coming out next week. But as a bit of a heads up, like I say, this one is book 4 in the Coastal Elite series. It's a dark romance, and it's forced proximity, captive, obsessive hero, dubious consent, all the good stuff that we love about Sam Mariano's heroes, but also her stories as well. In this one we're following Sophie and Sylvan, and basically this one starts at Sylvan's Halloween party. So he's hosting a party, he's very, very wealthy, he comes from a very wealthy family, and he is dressed as a Viking. And Sophie has very reluctantly gone to this Halloween party because she doesn't really like social gatherings, she doesn't really like to go out, but she's been very much peer pressured by her friend and also her mum to kind of go out and enjoy herself. And of course, as soon as she gets to the party, Sylvan sets his sights on her, and he kind of corners her in a special part of the house, and she realises that she was probably right to avoid social situations, and really, really wishes she'd stayed at home, because Sylvan really does set his sights on her, and because he's one of Sam Mariano's heroes, he is not going to take no for an answer, and then is going to continue to pursue Sophie relentlessly until he absolutely makes her surrender. I really loved Sylvan as a hero. I thought he was a really great blend of being very obsessive and controlling of our heroine, and someone who is absolutely going to get what he wants no matter what she wants. But he did show a softer side. He did show empathy. He did realise when he was pushing her too far and kind of allow her a little bit of a gap. Whereas the other character that features in this one, and is kind of part of the bonus chapter if you like, is our character Dare, who is from book 1, Even If It Hurts. Now, I've said before that I really don't like Dare as a character. That book was brilliant. Even If It Hurts was absolutely fantastic, and I know some people really like Dare's character, but I just don't like Dare because you absolutely do not know what line he is prepared to cross or if he's going to cross it. And you know, he will not move an inch, and he'll literally do anything to get his own way. Even for the woman that he loves, he literally gives her no leeway whatsoever. And so for me, we don't see him ever softening for the heroine. He remains hard and deliberate and cold and basically exacting all the way through his story. So I always felt, and this is always my comment about that particular book, was that I never really felt that his partner got a HEA. He might have got one, but she certainly didn't. And not only did I love Sylvan's story in here, I really liked the bonus chapter in this one because I got the smallest slither of hope that Dare might finally soften just a little bit, and he might actually get a proper HEA. So we will see. We will see. And I'm not going to say any more because if you haven't read this, I encourage you to do so and read the chapter for yourself. But I've got hope for the future. I think it's going to be a rocky ride. We've got a couple of books to go and we're going to be focusing on another character. But I firmly believe that Dare can and will change by the time we get to the end. So, got everything crossed. So the next question is, what is a new release that's come out this year but I've not read yet but really want to? So I don't actually generally keep up with too many new release trends. You'll notice from my TBR videos I only pick out, you know, a couple each month to read, because there's no point reading a new release unless I'm kind of up to date with the series and the author in general. However, as I was flicking through, I did come across one that has come out this year I haven't read yet, and that is The Love Contract by Sophie Lark. Now, I've read a couple of Sophie Lark's books in the past, mainly her Mafia romances, and I've really enjoyed what I've read from her so far. I've been meaning to continue on with her Mafia series as well, and I'll get around to that eventually. But I've heard really good things about this particular one. So this is book 1 in the Love Contract series, I believe, and the blurb says, dating tip number 1, never choose a fake boyfriend too hot to resist. Theo Mahoney's culinary dreams sit on the back burner. Hired as a private chef for a billionaire, her boss's eccentric demands never leave her time to cook. Another soul-destroying workday takes a spicy turn when Sullivan Reivers, a blast from her high school past and old nemesis, springs a blackmail scheme on her. Armed with a secret that could torch her career for good, the devious and unfairly gorgeous Sullivan demands a meeting with her elusive boss. What was supposed to be an introduction escalates into a full-blown fake romance, complete with double dates and public displays of all too real affection. Lines are crossed, promises are broken, and phony dates become genuine feelings, until Theo realises that the only thing more devastating than getting caught with a fake boyfriend is falling for him. And it says, enter my fake dating era. Love Contract has all my favourite things. Enemies to lovers, forced proximity, blackmail, angst and spice with rom-com vibes. And so, like I say, yeah, of all of the new releases that have come out this year so far, I didn't get to that one, and that is the one that I would be most interested in picking up. That said then, what is my most anticipated release for the second half of 2024? And that has to be, without a doubt, book 3 in the Frozen Fate trilogy by Pam Godwin, and I believe it's going to be called Heart of Frost and Scars. So this one is actually due out on the 26th of August, and the blurb says, I'm the silent ache, the shadow that lingers, the present from your past, the knife in your heart. And in the chilling finale of the Frozen Fate trilogy, Frankie enters a world far deadlier than the one she escaped. A sinister threat lurks in the shadows, hunting her with a dark obsession as her savage protectors battle the rules of society. Thrust into the civilised world, they spiral into violence and refuse to conform, their wild natures threatening to tear apart their bond. Amid these struggles, her seductive billionaire husband fights to reclaim her love. Caught between possessive men, a deadly stalker, and a legacy of pain, she must decide her fate. Choose wrongly and she'll lose everything to a monster with a heart of frost and scars. So like I say, I've absolutely been loving this series so far, and I really hope I'm going to get a ARC copy of this one as well. So I will definitely be doing either an extended review of this one or a reading vlog. Just depends on exactly when the ARCs come out, if I get one, and what time I've got available to me. But absolutely highly anticipated for the remainder of 2024. So from some great stories there, the next question is, what is my greatest disappointment of 2024? Now, I am not going to labour this one at all, because I don't like to talk negatively about books or negatively about authors, but I will briefly mention my biggest disappointment with Seeds of Malice by Maggie Cole. Now, this was book one of a duet. It was Seeds of Malice and Thorns of Malice, and they came out about a month apart, right at the start of the year, and it was the Wilted Kingdom duet. This was pitched as a dark bully romance, and it featured a couple called Dax and Ivy. But basically, I really didn't like how this played out at all. I didn't like Dax's character, and I didn't like Ivy's character either. Essentially, what happens in this one is that Dax is supposed to be a dark kind of bully who is basically a rich kid who gets bored very easily, and him and his mates decide that the only way that they can possibly entertain themselves is by doing horrible things to women, recording them, and then basically embarrassing them in front of everybody by showing the videos of evidence of things that they've done. And so when Ivy is new in town, she comes basically with her father. Her father is a botanist, and he comes to basically help out on the grounds of Dax's big fancy house, and to support to basically grow flowers. Ivy also comes with her father, and Dax obviously takes a shine to Ivy and decides she's going to be his new plaything, and so he manipulates her into doing all kinds of things so that he can basically win with his friends. Of course, Ivy is very, very naive and innocent and completely believes what he says, but it's so obvious that Dax is using her, lying to her, gaslighting her, all of that sort of stuff, and I just didn't warm to him at all. And I thought Ivy was just ridiculous, and so I didn't even feel any sympathy for her really. And overall, the book really fell flat for me. Just didn't like how it turned out at all. Now, I did go on to read the second book in the duet, hoping that maybe things would be turned around and things would happen where I'd then understand everything that had gone on and feel more of a connection with these characters. But unfortunately, book two did not deliver on that, and it was with a very sad heart that I have to say it was my biggest disappointment of the year, because normally I love Maggie Cole. Okay, so that was my biggest disappointment, but what was my biggest surprise? So I think my biggest surprise when I look back on it was When the Earl Met His Match by Stacy Reid. Now, this was a book that I put into my TBR jar because it had been recommended by Jen from the Book Refuge. It was one of her favourite books of 2023. So on one hand, I knew it would be good because I totally trust her recommendations. However, I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, because this is a historical romance, and historical romances for me are really hit and miss. I always want to really love them, but they always fall a little bit short. I don't enjoy them as much as sort of the dark Mafia romances that I read. And I think because of the topics covered in them, the language used, it's not necessarily something I always really enjoy. So I went in this one fairly kind of ambivalent. I knew it would be a good story, but I wasn't expecting to absolutely love it, like I said, because it's a historical romance. So I was delightfully surprised when I read this one, and like I say, absolutely loved it. This particular one is book 4 in the Wedded by Scandal series. Like I said, it's an historical. We have a mute hero in this one, and the heroine in this one is actually pregnant. It's not his baby, and they enter into a marriage of convenience. So actually some good tropes in here of things that I would normally really enjoy. So we are following basically Hugh and Phoebe, and Hugh is the future Earl of Aubrey and Phoebe is the daughter of a duke, so pretty well-bred people. But Hugh himself and the Earl of Aubrey, there's basically definitely a scandal in their family because the rumour is that the Earl's children aren't his, that his wife had an affair, and therefore technically Hugh is a bastard child. However, he has been claimed by the Earl of Aubrey and he loves all his children as much as if they were biologically his, and has always absolutely loved and brought up Hugh as his own. However, he didn't want his children growing up around all of the gossip and all the, you know, the whispered comments behind their backs, and so he kind of moved them to their estate in Scotland where they've kind of grown up and lived a very happy life so far. However, the Earl of Aubrey is now close to dying and Hugh is going to have to take his rightful place as the new Earl, and so his father basically wants him to seek out a wife, move back to London and get himself back into London society so he can fulfil his duties as being an Earl. So Hugh basically puts an ad in the paper and advertises for a wife. Now Phoebe, she is in London and she's actually in love with somebody herself, but the person that she's in love with is not of high enough standing for her father, and her father wants her to enter into a marriage with somebody else. And so Phoebe really wants to convince her father that she can marry the person that she loves, and she ends up sleeping with him, gets herself pregnant, and she hopes this will be enough to convince her father that she should marry the guy that she really wants to be with. However, what actually happens is that they banish the person that she's in love with him, they kind of buy him off to go, and then they plan to send her off to the country to have the baby, for her to give the baby away and then to come back into society, and no one will know what's happened and they'll avoid all the scandal. Meanwhile, while all of this is going on, Phoebe sees the advert in the paper from Hugh, and at first she's pretty outraged that someone would have the audacity, quite frankly, to put such an ad in the paper. So she decides she's going to write back to him, and then they have this back and forth with letters. So they kind of become pen pals where they basically talk to each other, but mainly she's telling him off. So when it comes to the point that you know, she's going to be carted off to the country, she absolutely does not want to lose her baby. She decides that she's actually going to take Hugh up on the offer of marriage, and basically sets off to his estate in Scotland to beg him to marry her. You know, and because Hugh has been brought up by his father, knowing that he wasn't biologically his son, then Hugh is also very sympathetic to Phoebe's current predicament, and agrees to marry her for convenience, so she can basically maintain her reputation. He can get himself a wife of very good standing, and he endeavours to bring up the baby as his. Lots of other things happen in this one. Obviously there's going to be some conflict, but like I said, I absolutely love this one, and I knew it would be good, but I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, and therefore it was the biggest surprise for me, and a very happy surprise at that. Okay, so next question then is favourite new author. So I've got two. My favourite new author is the same lady here who wrote The Deal, Elle Kennedy. I hadn't read anything by Elle Kennedy before. Obviously she is very famous, written lots of books that people absolutely love. The Deal was the first one, absolutely thought it was fantastic, a 5-star read. I listened to this as an audiobook, as I said, and then I went on to listen to The Mistake, which is book 2, The Score, which is book 3, which I've just finished and really liked, and we'll continue on with the off-campus series before moving on to some of her others. I absolutely love her writing, so easy to read. I absolutely love all of her heroes. They are such great guys, feisty heroines who really make the heroes work for it, and I really appreciate that, and really love the friendships that they have in here and the whole friendship group that they've created. So definitely a favourite author that I've picked up in 2024. The other one from a Mafia perspective, so I've read quite a few new Mafia romance authors so far this year, and I think my favourite one of all the Mafia romances I've read is Gabrielle Sands, particularly When She Unravels. That's the only one I've read by her so far, but I'm definitely going to go on to read some more. Again, really interesting Mafia world that she's built. I really liked the hero. It was a really good combination of, you know, feisty heroine, alpha hero, a very intriguing Mafia world, lots of great chemistry between the couples, and a really kind of good storyline and plot that's going to carry on through this series, so very intrigued to read more. So then the next question is newest fictional crush or favourite character. So I said I'm going to talk about him again, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to pick up this book again and talk about The Deal by Elle Kennedy, and in particular Garrett Graham. Now, like I said, Elle Kennedy, I think, writes some really good heroes. I've loved all of the boys in her series so far, but I think when I read Garrett Graham's character, I absolutely loved him. He comes across very much in the early days as a bit of a player. He's clearly very gifted. He's a very gifted ice hockey player. He's got a great physique. He's described as very handsome. He's also very charming. And at the start of this book, he, you know, has no problem with the ladies whatsoever, and, you know, is a pretty good catch. You know, he comes across as being very charismatic, cocky, charming, but without being really obnoxious, and someone that you just think, you know, loves himself so much that he doesn't care about other people. We find out in here he has been through a very tough time. He has a very difficult relationship with his father in particular, who is also a famous ice hockey player, and so has a lot of like personal things that he needs to deal with, but he absolutely has a heart of gold. He treats Hannah so well, is so like kind and warm and funny and romantic, but also just, you know, a great friend, a great listener, really cares about her, really takes the time to listen to what she has to say, and ultimately when it's needed, he you know, helps her through some trauma that she's had in the past, and really steps up to the plate when he needs to. So I just loved how much Hannah could trust Garrett, and I just thoroughly enjoyed this whole story, and I just smiled the whole way through. So definitely Garrett Graham is my book boyfriend of the year so far. And then the last one that I'm going to answer is, what is the most beautiful book you've bought? I don't actually buy a lot of books in the grand scheme of things, and I've just started to build my kind of physical book collection because I mainly read ebooks or listen to audiobooks. But at the end of last year, you'll know that I picked up and fell in love with the Mafia series, the Alliance series by S.J. Tilley, and I basically bought all of those books. And then S.J. Tilley basically released some limited edition, like special editions of the books, and I couldn't help myself, but I had to buy them, and they came a few months ago. So what I really like about these, so this is the first book, Nero, in this series, but what I really like about this is they are kind of like the discreet covers, and normally obviously I prefer men on the front covers, but these are discreet covers. But like you can see, this one, Nero, is roses, but some of the roses are actually laminated, so they're like really shiny. They're also embossed, so they're raised, and the lettering is gold here, so really pretty. These are also signed by S.J. Tilley as well, and they've also on the inside, that first page there is actually the original black and white version of the original cover. And then you can see in the chapter headings here, there's kind of a bullet in the glass with a gun at the bottom here, and some butterflies here as well. So I thought that was really nice. King, the next one then, is a similar sort of thing. It's got basically the main female character in here is an artist, and so they've got some really cool brushes and things on here and splashes of colour, and then some of the splashes of colour are actually you know, shiny, and so they're sort of glazed and embossed with the gold lettering as well. And again, on the inside, we've got the black and white version of the original cover, and then again the same kind of chapter headings inside for those as well. Then Dom, which I think is actually my favourite one, because this is the huge engagement ring that Dom gives her. You can see here how the diamond really sparkles, and it's sort of embossed in shiny blue for Dom as well. And then again on the inside, we've got the original cover for Dom in black and white there. And then finally Hans is got a beautiful butterfly on it, again shiny and embossed with gold lettering, and the original cover on the inside. So yeah, I think that is my most beautiful limited edition set of books that I've bought so far this year, and I hope to have a few more to share with you at the end of the year. So there we go. They're all the questions I'm going to answer today, but that is my version of the mid-year booktube tag. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch. If you made it this far, please leave a comment in the comments box down below just to let me know you're still here. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, because that really helps out the channel, and remember to subscribe if you want to see more content from me. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So thank you very much. I believe it's going to be called Heart of Frost and Stars, and that has to be, without a doubt, book 3 in the Frozen, and it's sort of forced proximity. Then the new release that was my favourite for this year so far is cut all that, it's irrelevant, isn't it? It's irrelevant.